Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are building this rocket stove that can heat up water. Is this not the prettiest rocket stove that you've ever seen? I think this looks awesome. In the last couple videos, if you're new here, we built this rocket stove. I think this one's a lot cooler because it has a detachable built-in heat exchanger. Can't see the copper from here, but we have 10 feet of copper coil built inside of this thing, and it heats up water really fast. I'll have a link to the build video and the test video in the description if you're interested in that. But yeah, it's got 10 feet of copper coil inside the tube, so it's exposed to direct flame. And the copper seems to be holding up just fine. I've used it a bunch of times so far. But to continue this project, the next step was to build one out of round tubing and to put the copper on the outside. And I just want to see how well they compare. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to test this thing out. But before I can test it, let me show you how to build it. So let's get to it. I want to quickly thank everybody that has commented in the last couple of videos. If you didn't know, commenting really helps out a video. You know, we're in a constant battle against the YouTube algorithm. That's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it really helps us out and I really appreciate it. All right, here's our material to get started on this project. We're using 4-inch steel pipe. It's about 1/8 inch thick. And we're gonna cut this in a few pieces. I'm not exactly sure what the dimensions are at the moment. Let's get this cut up. We'll start getting it shaped. Once I do that, I'll clean the metal up, get all the rust removed, and make it look nice. All right, we got our 3 pieces cut. This will go there. This guy will go right about there. I think that looks pretty good. Somebody in the last video asked why do people make rocket stoves out of square instead of round tubing? I'll show you exactly why. Nothing stays in place. It's much more difficult to work with. I think that's gonna look good. I'm gonna get the metal cleaned up really good, get it nice, fresh looking, and then we'll weld up. All right, this is what we got. This is still the same rusty metal. Just went a little overboard on the sanding. Just got in the zone. Wanted to see this stuff shine again. I know if I look at it wrong, it's gonna flash rust, but how cool would it be if we put a mirror finish on this thing? It would look awesome. Mirror finish with the copper going up. That would look really cool. I might have to go a little further with my sanding. All right, I think that's what we're gonna do right there. Gonna weld that baby up, grind it back down, and might keep polishing. I'll have to oil it up after I weld to keep it from rusting. Before I weld anything up, I think I wanna add some type of like sliding door here to control my airflow, be able to dump any ashes out. So I think that'll be easier to do before I weld things up. I'm probably also going to add the expanded metal like down in here to hold the fuel off the bottom a little bit. So there'll be a little bit of space between the bottom and our little airflow vent. So I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. I grabbed one of the cutoff pieces from our 45. I think I'm going to open it up a little bit and then it'll be my slider and I'll attach it somehow. All right, this is what I came up with. I think I'm gonna cut out this. This will be my vent here, and then I'll cut a slot here for this to slide on, and it'll just open and close like this. This won't be super tight, but we'll be able to slide that open and close, empty out the ashes, get airflow. So I think that'll look good. So I'm gonna cut that out,
start getting that put together. I'll probably end up trimming this down quite a bit. We don't need it to be quite this big. All right, we got our sliding piece all polished up. I'm using a carriage bolt to go through the back. I'll put a handle on this at some point, but it just slides open. All right, now that we have that, we can get this welded on. It's my other glove. Oh, here it is.
All right, I'm in the process of trying to figure out how I want to do the legs. And this is what I've come up with so far. It's pretty simple, but I also wanted the legs to be detachable. So I made these, and we'll weld on this piece just like that. And then we can just screw on the legs whenever we want to use it. I essentially just welded a bolt to a washer and then a nut to a washer, just like that. This is what that looks like once it's all welded up. So on the short side, we'll weld this together just like that, and then grind those welds down. And then on the tube side, we'll weld that in just like that. So yeah, pretty simple. So I got a couple more of these to make, and then we'll get them welded up. All right, we got 2 legs built. Got the whole stove just propped up in place while I mock this up. I'm gonna get these tacked in place. I'm not sure if I want to do a tripod, just one out the front, or do 4 legs, but we'll figure that out after I get this welded up. All right, got those welded on. Thought it'd be a good time to practice my TIG welding, but as you can see, I need a whole lot more practice. That's not pretty at all. TIG welding is freaking hard, but I would like to get better at it at some point. I just got to put in the time. But we got those on. I'm going to do 2 more up front, I think, and then we can start working on our copper. All right, done with the legs. I was gonna do 2 legs up front, but I broke one of them during the fabrication process, and those legs were taking forever to build, so tripod it is. Next thing to do is to coil up our copper around our tube up here, and then test it out. All right, here is our copper. Got a lot more than last time. This is 20 feet of 1/2 inch inside diameter copper. The last stove I used 10 feet of 3/8 inside diameter copper. This is type L. And I think I'm gonna do exactly what I did last time. I'm just gonna fill it with sand and wrap it around the chimney portion. A lot of people mentioned freezing it, filling it with water, freezing it to bend it, but I don't have the patience for that. Others mentioned filling it with salt or sugar, something like that, that dissolves in water to be able to remove it easily. But man, the sand thing works so well, and it really wasn't that much trouble to get out or anything. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna uncoil this, fill it with sand, and then we'll start wrapping it around the chimney. First thing we need to do is we need to crimp off this end right here so we can fill it with sand. Who's to really say which method is really better for bending copper? Seems to work just fine. All right, now we got the copper filled to the brim with sand. I mean, who in their right mind would wait for this to freeze when you could just do what I just did in 5 minutes? I mean, come on. But now that we have this thing filled with sand, we're just gonna wrap it around our tube, our 3-inch tube, and we'll just see how much we use up in, covering this chimney section. So let's get to it. All right, it's coming along nicely. We got about 6 feet left. It was way out there in the yard. But I'm basically just having to muscle it around this 3-inch pipe. I am very strong, so not sure if you guys will be able to do this. But yeah, I'm gonna keep wrapping this thing up. This will easily fit on this section of pipe. All right, guys, we got it done. This thing looks awesome. Definitely want to make sure you get this as tight as possible around the pipe the first time, because there's really no going back, especially with this 1/2-inch thick stuff. I wish I could cinch this a little bit tighter, but I think this is really good. It's really nice and tight on the pipe. Good Lord, that's heavy. All that sand in it. Got it as tight as I could. So now for the fun part, we'll cut the ends. We'll remove the sand. We'll get our fittings put on. That's about all of it. Really doesn't take that long to empty this thing out. The spin method works the best, and then eventually you can just blow it out. That's all of it. Now that the sand is out of our copper, we're ready to add our fitting, and I decided to listen to a subscriber and use a compression fitting instead of dealing with all soldering on a copper fitting. So the way this works, it has a little collar in here and it just squeezes onto the copper instead of using solder. Fun fact, we call these ferrules here in the US, and our friends across the pond call these olives. So we'll slip this over. And we'll slip our olive over the top. Now we just have to thread these together. The tighter we thread, the tighter it'll squeeze onto the copper. But you don't want to over tighten this. Now to test it for leaks. Perfect. I bet that's how the plumbers do it. I would like to mention that this is $125 of copper and brass fittings, so if you could just do me a solid and hit that like button and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Man, it looks so good. It's time to test this thing out. I did a couple things off camera. Add a little oak handle for our slider here. I can tighten that up if I need to. I finished up the legs. The legs honestly took longer to build than the entire rocket stove, so you might want to go a different route here, but I think it still looks good. So yeah, let's get our test set up and see how she does. All right, just getting set up. Couple things. I was gonna do an uninsulated copper versus insulated just to see the difference. But I thought it'd be more fun if we brought out our first rocket stove that has the detachable heat exchanger with the copper on the inside. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to see the difference between the two. One thing I'm gonna do, it's already 83 degrees, so our water's gonna be probably around 75 degrees or so. And getting from 75 to 100 really wouldn't be that much of a test. So I'm gonna put a bag of ice in each bucket We're gonna bring that temperature down to hopefully about 40 degrees, and that'll just be a much more thorough test. It's gonna be a lot harder on both stoves. The other thing I'm doing, I have the wood bundled in 1 pound batches. So we got 8 pounds of wood right here, and just for a visual reference, that piece right there is 6 pounds, 5 ounces. So this way we can keep track of how much fuel we're using throughout this test. So yeah, let's get the copper insulated, get our buckets filled, and we'll get this test going. All right, first pound of oak. All right, we just got our timer going. Still nice and cool down here. So I'll give that one a little bit of a head start as we start this one. We still got ice up here. So we're at 33 degrees. This is probably gonna take a while. You can see the difference. You got condensation. This one's nice and cold here versus this one. It's much warmer. And then our water, we've lost almost all of our ice. We're only 10 minutes in. So on this side, we have a thermosiphon set up where as the cold water falls to the bottom, it of course heats up inside the coil and then makes its way to the top. So that top layer is gonna start warming up a lot faster than down here. It's gonna stay really cold. And that's just how the cycle works. All the cold water drops to the bottom, all the way to the bottom of the coil, and then heats up and makes its way to the top. Over here, we're borrowing the 12-volt pump from my portable shower to cycle the water through. I have it running from the top down to the bottom and then back into the bucket. Everybody gets so mad that I run this to the top and not to the bottom because of the thermosiphon effect, but it really doesn't matter when you're pumping at 2.5 gallons a minute. All right, we're almost 15 minutes in. Temp down here is 530. Up here drops down to 180 or so. Down here we're getting 700 degrees at the chamber. 266. Let's check our water. We're up to 72 degrees down here. And here we are up to 74. But that changes quite a bit. When you drop down here, it's still gonna be in the 50s down here at the bottom. All right, 41 minutes in. This is the end of the third bundle for this stove. This thing's going strong. This stove seems to be burning a lot slower. This is the end of the second bundle for this stove. So let's check our temps. This side we have 96, almost 100 degrees. That's awesome. And then over here, we are at 85 degrees. But if we drop down here, we're still down into the 50s. So it's just gonna take a while to get that bottom water heated up. This side is going very well. All right, we're an hour in. This guy's kicking over here. Both are doing really well. Let's do a quick temp check. This one is at 114 degrees. That's crazy. This one was at 100 degrees in like 45, 46 minutes. And with this side, I didn't even have a lid to keep the water covered. Over here, I've been trying to keep it covered. Got a little bit of steam going. Right now, we're at 117 degrees at the top. It'll drop down pretty quick as we go towards the bottom. So yeah, still got a little bit more time before we can get that entire jug to 100 degrees. This stove is awesome. It runs so efficiently. Really love the first stove. The difference in the two stoves has been, this one runs so much better, it runs faster in terms of efficiency. It's burning the wood faster, but it takes more to keep lit. I really have to tend to this one a lot more. This one over here, I haven't had a trouble out of it at all. It's just been burning, no trouble with it trying to go out. This one wants to go out on me sometimes, so that's been the difference between the two stoves. But yeah, just having the coil on the inside and using that pump to cycle it, it just heats up so much faster. I'm gonna stop the test on this guy. We're well over 100 degrees and we end up using 4 bundles of wood. So under 4 pounds, this is the end of the 4th bundle. So I got 4 bundles left over here. So that is awesome. 4 pounds of wood, 45 minutes or so. We got this thing well over 100 degrees. Just to give you an idea of what the temperatures are doing, down here at the bottom, we're at 700 degrees. At the bottom of the wrap, it drops down 170, 170. Up here at the top, just jumping all around. 160s, the top of the chimney, back up to 450s. So yeah. All right, at 1 hour and 16 minutes, we are at 120 degrees. Down here at the bottom, we're at 100. If we measure this line temp is at 100 degrees too. The bottom line's at 100. This top line is at 134. So yeah. So there you go. Hour and 15 minutes. We got it done. All right, so that wraps up the testing on these 2 stoves. This one got it to over 100 degrees in 45 minutes. No surprise there. That stove works awesome. If you hadn't seen the video on that one, definitely go check it out. This one didn't do a bad job. It got it to 100 degrees in about 1 hour and 15 minutes. I am kind of annoyed though, because about midway through, I made a change with the venting and it got so much hotter. I had flames coming out the top. So I think if I did it again, I could get it to over 100 degrees in less than an hour for sure. But yeah, I hope y'all have enjoyed these 2 build videos. I've learned so much by doing them. So be sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you guys in the next videos.